Right now, somewhere on Earth, somebody is afraid of the dark. A child is staring at their bedroom door, convinced something is standing on the other side. A grown man is hurrying across an empty parking lot, suddenly walking faster than he needs to. A woman hears a noise outside her house at 2 a.m. and immediately feels her heart rate rise. And all of them know the same thing. The dark itself can't hurt you. But somehow that doesn't matter. Because fear of the dark isn't really fear of darkness. It's fear of what darkness might be hiding, and that's strange. Because darkness is just the absence of light. It's not a predator. It's not a disease. It's not a weapon. So why does something as simple as the sun going down have the power to make millions of people uneasy? Why do children instinctively fear it? Why do adults still sleep with nightlights? Why do horror movies almost always turn the lights off before something bad happens? The answer goes back much further than childhood, further than civilization, further than humanity itself. Because the story of your fear begins long before there were houses, cities, or campfires. It begins in the trees. Around 55 million years ago, the ancestors of modern primates were small animals living in ancient forests. They weren't strong, they weren't fast, and they certainly weren't at the top of the food chain. Everything wanted to eat them. Large birds, snakes, big cats. The forest was full of predators. And at night, things got worse. Vision became unreliable. Movement became harder to track. Danger became difficult to predict. For millions of years, survival depended on one simple rule. If you couldn't see clearly, you were vulnerable. The individuals that treated darkness seriously survived. The ones that didn't often became dinner. And over time, natural selection built a brain that paid very close attention whenever visibility dropped. Long before humans feared monsters under the bed, our ancestors feared very real things hiding in very real shadows. But that's only part of the story. Because if fear of darkness were just about predators, turning on a flashlight would solve the problem instantly. Yet sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people feel uneasy, even when they know they're completely safe, which means something else is happening. To understand that, we need to jump forward a few million years. Imagine a group of early humans in Africa. The sun is setting, the temperature is dropping, the horizon is turning orange, and for a few minutes, everything is beautiful. Then the light disappears. Suddenly the world changes. The same landscape that felt familiar during the day becomes unfamiliar at night. The rocks look different. The trees look different. The sounds change. Things that were obvious a few hours ago become impossible to identify. And that's when the human brain starts doing something remarkable. It begins filling in the blanks. Because your brain hates uncertainty. It would rather invent an explanation than accept having none. A rustle in the bushes could be the wind, or it could be a predator. A shadow could be a tree branch. Or it could be something watching you. And if your ancestors guessed wrong, they didn't get a second chance. So evolution favored a very specific type of mistake. It's better to think a predator is there when it isn't, than assume everything is fine when a predator actually is there. In other words, your brain was designed to be paranoid, not all the time, just when the consequences of being wrong are deadly. And darkness is one of the biggest uncertainty generators humans have ever encountered, which explains something interesting. People don't usually fear darkness itself. They fear possibility. What if something is there? What if something moves? What if I'm not alone? The darkness becomes a blank screen, and the brain starts projecting onto it. But then humans did something no other animal had ever done. We fought back. About 1 million years ago, our ancestors began controlling fire. And this changed everything. For the first time in evolutionary history, humans could push the darkness away. Imagine what that must have felt like. For millions of years, night belonged to predators. Then suddenly, a group of humans sits around a fire and watches lions stop at the edge of the light. The darkness is still there, but now it has boundaries. Fire gave humans warmth. It gave protection. It gave cooking. But it also gave something more important. Control. And that control transformed human society. People gathered around flames. They told stories. shared knowledge, formed stronger social bonds. Some anthropologists believe the nighttime campfire became one of the earliest theaters in human history, a place where myths, legends, and eventually entire cultures were born, which leads to an unexpected twist. The dark didn't just create fear, it helped create civilization, because once humans sat around fires telling stories, something else appeared. Monsters, spirits, ghosts, demons. Every culture on Earth eventually filled the darkness with things. Ancient Greeks had creatures that stalked the night. Medieval Europeans feared witches and spirits. Across Asia, Africa, and the Americas, stories emerged about beings that appeared after sunset. Different cultures, different monsters, same pattern. Why? Because the human imagination works hardest when information is missing, and darkness removes information. The less we can see, the more we imagine. That's why a coat hanging on a chair can look normal during the day and vaguely threatening at 3 a.m. The object hasn't changed. Your brain has. And the strange part is that even knowing this doesn't completely fix it. You can understand every scientific explanation. You can know you're safe. You can know the shadow is just a shadow and still feel uneasy because fear evolved faster than logic. The emotional systems inside your brain are far older than the rational ones. The part of you calculating danger is ancient, much older than the part reading this sentence, which is why darkness still affects us today. But the story gets even stranger. Researchers studying the brain have found that humans aren't just afraid of physical threats in darkness. We're also more likely to think about ourselves. At night, distractions disappear. The world becomes quieter, and suddenly people start worrying about the future, about mistakes, about relationship, about death. The dark doesn't just hide the outside world. It removes the noise that usually distracts us from the inside one. That's why some of humanity's greatest fears appear after sunset. Not because they're hiding in the room, because they're hiding in our minds. And for thousands of years, humans have been trying to solve that problem. We built torches, candles, lanterns, streetlights, electricity, entire cities that glow brightly enough to be seen from space. In a way, human civilization is one long attempt to extend daylight, to make the night feel a little less powerful. But despite all of that technology, despite all the light we've created, the ancient fear never completely disappeared, because the fear of darkness was never really about darkness. It was about uncertainty, and uncertainty is something no amount of electricity can fully eliminate. So here's the full picture. Millions of years ago, darkness made our ancestors vulnerable. Predators hunted in it. Danger hid inside it. Evolution built brains that treated uncertainty as a threat. Then humans discovered fire and pushed back against the night. Around those fires, we created stories, myths, religions, and culture. The dark helped shape the human imagination as much as it shaped human fear. And even today, when you feel uneasy walking through a dark hallway or crossing an empty street at night, you're experiencing something ancient. A response older than cities, older than writing, older than civilization itself. The next time you turn on a light after hearing an unexpected noise, remember this: part of your brain is still doing exactly what it was designed to do hundreds of thousands of years ago. It's scanning the darkness, asking the same question your ancestors asked every night: what can't I see? And that question may be one of the oldest fears humanity has ever known.